When old walls fall away, space opens around us. In that wide clearing, another kind of relationship tries to emerge. A conscious relationship with the self, the inner center that orders our lives. This is why solitude is necessary for transformation. The noise of the outer world dims and the inner conversation turns its volume up. The unconscious does not speak when our attention is scattered in the crowd. It speaks when we direct it inwardly. In that quiet, the inner life becomes more alive. What does a conscious relationship with the self look like? First, attention. Dreams become messengers, a lifelong process of paying attention to those nightly letters from the deep. One of the most nourishing things we can do is pay constant attention to our dreams and allow them to show us how to find meaning in our existence and how to realize the greater potential that wants to live through us. Second, dialogue. In active imagination, we enter a real conversation with the images and figures of the inner world. That dialogue makes us increasingly aware of the presence of the self, the other in us, and gives the ego a steadier, more patient attitude, because it's more conscious now of the fact that it's connected to an infinitely deeper source of information and life energy. Third, purification of seeing. Much of what we love or fight in others is our own unconscious material thrown across the world, our own soul projected outward. Withdrawing projections does not end relationship. Paradoxically, it deepens it. Fourth, meaning dawning in time. Meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, often constellate when we are sincerely aligned. Instead of manipulating events, we approach them with honesty and let the pattern speak. These moments feel like a meeting point where inner and outer correspond. They point toward the interconnectedness of all things, inner and outer. In comparison with the self as the hidden center, loneliness is the outer court of its temple. We are building a temple we did not begin and cannot complete ourselves. Our task is to lay our own unique stone, humbly, sincerely, persistently. The work cannot be rushed. It must be allowed to happen. This is a slow construction process. Individuation is the steady emergence of a new center of life that takes a very long time to permeate the personality. It grows as we keep returning attention to dreams and to inner tasks at hand. Meaning is what keeps us afloat when the floods of life come. Then we must remember why we are here. The slow creation of a more whole, balanced, and radiating conscious life. We become more able to experience the felt sense that we are carried by more than personal will, that in the essence of things, we are never alone and were never alone, only unconscious to the other within. In a moment, Marie-Louise von Franz reflects on the dream of a temple that takes centuries to build, a reminder that our faithful inner work belongs to a larger pattern. The personal carries a significant role in the archetypal reality it is included in. Von Franz emphasizes the importance of being alone for establishing the connection with the self.
I remember reading about Max Zeller's dream that he was, in working with the inner life, he was building on a temple that would take hundreds of years to be built, and Jung called him back after an hour to speak about this dream. And he said, you know how long it will take for the temple? 600 years. Well, that image is quite a powerful one, as if all this individual work is building a temple.
Yes, I think that's what I meant when I said before there are thousands of Jungians who have never heard the name Jung. all the people who are honestly working on their own inner problem in their own way are builders of a new temple. And it takes 600 years because that means it takes as long till we are fully in the Aquarian age.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will probably come out what was building itself up. But one must not want it with one's mind or head or want to organize it. One must let that happen. That's a dream which would compensate feeling a bit lonely, feeling a bit an outsider. And the conscious says to him, no, do your own job and you are one of the builders.
Uh-huh.
Hermes Trismegistus said in one active imagination to an alchemist, I am the friend of whoever is lonely. The unconscious doesn't speak to you when you are with people. Your attention goes to the people.
Mm-hmm.
While when you are lonely, I've lived in this tower sometimes 3 weeks alone without speaking to one word to anybody. And I sometimes thought I was going off my head. But the unconscious became alive. It was my partner. And that's why you have to be lonely so that the unconscious becomes stronger. It's like loading up the unconscious and then it manifests. And then you are not lonely anymore. So we have to support the unconscious. It's not enough to just have it. We have to actively turn towards it and support it so that it then helps us.
In the next piece, von Franz follows a series of dreams of a flight attendant and shows how the psyche tries to guide us towards our wholeness. First, it reveals our weightlessness, our tendency to fly above the earth, to hide in a grey mist where no one can see us. Then it confines us to a prison of schedules, so we feel the cost of a life that never lands. Next, it sends us to wash our dirty linen, not outside with gossip and distraction, but at home in our own basin, where shadow becomes substance. Finally, it asks us to face the inner critic, the animus that aims sharp judgments at the heart, and to say, that thought is not the whole of me. Von Franz's point is simple and demanding. We do not master dreams, we meet them. We let their images show us where we are ungrounded, where we evade the work, where we project what we cannot bear to own. Bit by bit, the ego gains weight, the soul speaks more clearly, and our stone finds its place in the larger building. As you listen, notice the rhythm: elevation, confinement, cleansing, confrontation. This is how the self draws us from the outer court toward the center. Let's continue with Marie-Louise von Franz, a personal journey through dreams.
I was once told that it didn't matter if I understood a dream. What was important was that the dream understood me. That my attitude toward the dream would determine its attitude toward me. It's a living dialogue. When we listen to dreams, we change. And when dreams are heard, they change. Here are 4 dreams of an air stewardess that demonstrate what happens when dreams are listened to.
Okay, I had this dream about flying, that I could fly. Sort of like Samantha in Bewitched, just straight through roofs, just disappear. And I was flying through the roofs, up into the clouds. Could also produce a gray mist. This would encircle me so that nobody could see me. I could still see through it. I could still see other people, but nobody could see me. And I went up to about cloud level and just sort of sat there, just weightless, and sat there and had tea with somebody else.
This dream is difficult to interpret because the outer situation of the dreamer is flying, so that the flying has a double connotation. It means what she actually is doing, and it also has a symbolic meaning, how she is psychologically behaving. But naturally, one can also say it is not by chance that she has chosen that profession, so it in a deeper sense, naturally, the meaning is one. And she's flying in midair, and she can even veil herself in a gray mist which she produces. And here I would rather take the slightly negative connotation of the flying, namely this weightless sipping tea on a cloud. All the connotation shows a very light and unrealistic attitude, a delightful but unrealistic attitude. There is no earth anywhere. And having a cup of tea is even an expression in English for saying light chatting, light social contact with people, nothing substantial. Tea doesn't nourish, it's a stimulating drink. And the grey mist, you see a stewardess has very much to play a role. She has to be the charming geisha waitress of the air, and nobody is interested in her private life as a woman and a human being. Therefore, there's also a temptation to constantly have slight flirtations, but not very deep-going relationships, which are also very much disturbed by the time program of stewards and stewardesses. It's a very difficult life through the time program. And that's why an extreme comes where she is in prison.
I was in a jailhouse, one of the old-fashioned kinds from the Western movies, just the wooden building with the one main desk in it, and behind that you could see just the 2-3 jail cells. And the guards were talking about how there'd been a lot of jailbreaks recently. There was also 2 prisoners. One came out of his cell and went to take a shower, and he escaped. And then the 2 guards were discussing this, and they said, well, it was very strange that there'd been 2 jailbreaks in one evening. And then they all turned around and looked at me. And I thought it was very suspicious, and then I woke up.
That prison I would take as the timetable in which she is imprisoned. It is a very difficult profession because, let's say the stewardess, the dreamer meets a man she likes. Well, she can stay with him 2 hours at airport so-and-so, but she has to take the next airplane back evening so-and-so. She's constantly in prison, and except for short holidays, she cannot break free from that. And also suffering from the jet lag, there is generally a big physical discomfort in this profession, an irregularity of sleep and physical discomfort, which makes these people even more uprooted and not connected with their body and with their own depth. Even the dreaming business is difficult for a stewardess. She sleeps once a daytime, once early in the evening, once late in the night. And when has she time to record and think over her dreams? So it is a very difficult profession, and that's why also in aging, it's good for young people who like the spirit of adventure which is connected with it. But generally in aging, there's a strong wish comes up to retire from it. And therefore, and to break free from that prison and have a life where you can more give it a creative form, your own life, so to speak, your own private life. and form your own life.
The unlived part of this dreamer's life becomes obvious in the next dream. Her friend Sue raises mischief because she's neglected and bored. She dreamt that she lived with her friend Sue.
I had this dream about my friend Sue, and the two of us were sharing a 2-bedroom apartment. It was a large apartment, and she was out of work though. And quite often when I came home from work, I'd find the place disorderly and messy. And it really got on my nerves. And this one time I came off a flight, got home, and Sue was there, but she'd spilt some red wine all over this light gray carpet. And I was really annoyed because it stains and it's hard to get out. So we went down to Simpson's and spent a whole day looking for cleaning utensils. It was up to one floor and down to another one, and bought a sponge and some bleach, and finally went home to clean up this mess. Finally got that cleaned up and arguing about it and all, and my mother came up for a visit, and Sue left. And my mother and I were talking about the 2-bedroom apartment, and was it really worthwhile having this extra space for the hassle it was causing? So we talked about it, and I went downstairs to see her 1-bedroom, because she lived in the same apartment building, to see if maybe I shouldn't go back to living by myself in this 1-bedroom. So we were talking about that, and then my mother just fades out of the dream. I went back to work and came back from a flight, and I wanted to do my laundry. And for some reason didn't do it in the building, but I packed it all up and took it with me and went way up to this girlfriend's place that lived at Jungian Aion. And got it up there, but her and her husband started arguing about the fact that this was kind of silly, like why was I there doing my laundry? And I really shouldn't have been there at all. Then they started having this party, and there was people dancing, and I was dancing with it was a woman, but she was weightless, and I had to keep holding on to her. So the laundry must have been finished because I left, and I went back to the apartment. But as I was walking towards the apartment, all the apartments were on this balcony sort of, and you walked along this whole outside railing. And then you opened your own apartment, or went right into it. We were about 12 floors up, and hanging on the railing just outside my own apartment was my brother. And he'd been tied up, and he was unconscious, and he'd been tied up for quite a while. And it was a trick to untie him without letting him fall. So I went back into the apartment, got scissors and stuff, and started untying him really carefully. And while I did so, I pulled him off the railing and off the balcony and dragged him into my apartment, put blankets all over him, and knew he was going to be all right.
Cleaning and washing is mostly a woman's connection with the earth, with the body, with the material world. It's an expression of love towards matter, devotion to the principle of matter, and all that in her flying condition, psychologically and outwardly, she cannot do. If the dreamer could live the Susie side of her personality, there wouldn't be such a difficulty, but because she cannot live the side which likes to be doing the household, which quietly lives introvertedly daydreaming while washing up is a marvelous creative recreation where one can hang on one's own fantasies and thought, or a woman can think over her dreams and such things. And all that she cannot do. And so Susie is cantankerous and makes mischief and all sorts of trouble. And in the end, we'll see that she even hangs the brother of the dreamer. Then the dreamer goes to do laundry, but she doesn't do it in her own house. She goes to some friends further away in town and washes the dirty linen there.
And what's the significance of her doing her laundry?
Washing dirty linen is to sort out all the little shadow things one has done, to dwell on them. You see, generally, if we do some mischief against our will, if we do some harm to our friends or forget something important or so, we are for a moment aware of it, but we push it aside, we forget about it as quickly as possible. I said, oh yes, that's annoying. And in the afternoon already one has forgotten, while the good things one remembers all the time. And so one accumulates a lot of dirty linen and has from time to time to do washing. Actually, a psychotherapeutic treatment is mostly washing dirty linen. People say, my friend said that and that gossip against me and I got angry and so, and then you find out that there is a shadow projection upon each other. Both project the shadow upon each other, and it comes out in petty little quarrels and jealousies and so on. That's dirty linen.
Isn't it interesting that at the very moment that she's doing her laundry, she suddenly starts dancing with this peculiar woman that she has to hold up?
That weightless woman is probably, again, another shadow figure of her, another part of her personality which has no weight, no substance. We say about somebody what they say has no weight, or they as a personality have no weight. And that is somehow they have no psychic solidity, no substance. One doesn't feel the other person as somebody substantial. What gives us substance, strangely enough, is our shadow. Our shadow is the positive thing. That girl's shadow is weightless because she does the washing of the dirty linen outside. That means probably she enjoys a lot of gossipy, criticizing other people among colleagues and so on, but never takes it home. She never takes it home to herself. She never asks, and me, what am I doing to the others? She hasn't realized her shadow yet, and therefore her other personality is weightless in a negative sense.
In the last part of the dream, she's surprised to find that her friend Sue has hung up her brother. Her association with the brother was that she's supporting his education.
We can take the brother Jan, who is hung up, as her own possibility of studying and making a mental career, probably her mind personality. That is the masculine side in the woman, her mind, somebody who goes for a university career in herself. She probably neglects that, or rather perhaps she cannot live it in her present profession, and therefore it is projected onto her brother. She gives all her money and devotion to the brother that he can make a career, and kind of vicariously then enjoys the brother studying, while she actually should do that herself. By that she quits developing her own career further. Obviously, she is a girl who should not stay in the hostess business, but has a good mind and should go for a change of profession. But her Sue shadow hangs up that brother, and her Sue shadow would be in her that mechanism which projects onto the brother, the man who makes a career, the person who makes a career, and sees it outside instead of seeing inside. She has therefore to take down the brother, and then he might drop 12 floors down. The great danger is that if she would realize that she herself has to do what she's paying her brother to do for her, she might drop. And to drop in a dream has generally to do with a sudden disappointment and giving everything up. To let oneself drop into nothingness, so to speak. That would be a reaction in her to say, oh, I am hopeless, and nothing will ever come out of me, I can't make it, I give up. And then just throw herself away into the street, literally, and not make the effort to build up her own personal life. And that is a dangerous moment of transition when she therefore takes that brother down and brings him in, to bring him into the flat. Her flat is in the 12th floor, would mean to bring home, instead of saying, well, why am I paying the career of my brother? Is it not me, myself, who needs to do something more than being a hostess? That would be bringing home the brother into her own inner realm. And that is a dangerous enterprise she has to, which is recommended at the end of the dream, and which she seems in the dream to succeed to do so.
What about that section of the dream in which the dreamer is discussing with her mother the possibility of leaving Sue and moving into a one-bedroom apartment with her mother?
The mother is a down-to-earth, practical person, therefore would probably represent in her somebody who suggests always a shortcut, practical solution. Now, the shortcut, practical solution, if your shadow annoys you, is to avoid him, to go away and have your flat on your own, to not live with Sue. That would mean the most practical thing is to repress the shadow. You see that when you want to talk to people about their shadow, they just switch conversation. And they say, oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you, and they talk about something else. That's the practical way of getting rid of Sue. But it's not really practical. It's practical at the moment, but one pays for it later.
Why is it that dreams tend to use close friends to reveal the shadow side of the personality?
Because generally one makes friends with one shadow figure. Tell me who your friends are, and I have the whole panorama of your good and bad qualities. The bad qualities have also an attraction, a fascination for one. The friend can do the things one cannot do. The friend is generally the person whom one envies. The friend is more elegant, or dances better, or can move about better in outer life, or has depth, and has a better mind or something, and that is fascinating. So there is always a kind of love-hatred with the shadow. And with one's friends, if one hasn't worked on one's shadow, one has with one's friend also generally a love-hatred relationship.
In the next dream, the male figure appears in a very negative form, but the dreamer handles him very easily.
Okay, I had this dream about being at a large airport. It was a large city airport. There's people everywhere. It was very crowded. And there were also a lot of guns. There was people shooting. I don't know. It was a lot of confusion. It was big and it was crowded and it was noisy. There was this one guy that he seemed to have it out for me, kept following me around. And I kept hiding from him. And wherever I went, he would find me. And he kept aiming this rifle at me. And I didn't like it. And I was really frightened. And so I kept hiding. And he'd come back. And at one point, I finally looked at him and I said, listen, I don't want to die. I don't like this stuff with you aiming your rifle at me. And he went away. He got up and left.
Now here we have no longer what we call the shadow, because it is a contrasexual figure which turns up, an unknown man who points a rifle at the dreamer. First there are just rifles everywhere and shooting around, and a scary situation. Now, thinking of the dreamer as a hostess, we can say that she might any minute get into such a situation with the modern terrorist methods and so on, and it probably picks up that situation. The dream picks up that fantasy and brings it into reality, and there is a kind of psychological chaos in her when it comes to the masculine side of her personality. That has to do with the dreamer having had very little contact with her father. And in those cases, in a woman, there is no preformation to relate positively to a man in later life, because the first experience of a man in her life is practically missing. And therefore, one has this chaotic situation. She doesn't know really how men are and how to relate to men. She knows how to put a gray mist around her and appear as the attractive woman to them. But when it comes to establishing a human relationship, she is in falls into a scary chaos. But then one man singles himself out in the situation, which is a progress in the dream, a confrontation with the man, but he's unknown, so it would be the man how she experiences him outside of herself, and also her own masculinity, being in a woman, knowing what she wants, goal-orientedness, willpower, strength, all these qualities which she needs.
Well, a male figure is certainly not hung up in this dream.
This man has pointing a rifle at her. A rifle in general is a phallic masculine symbol, and again points to pointedness, to goal orientation, to accurate, to be able to want something and to accurately have it in mind and go for it. That is, in a woman generally, a more unconscious quality, and therefore appears either projected onto men or as an inner masculine figure. And this man points the rifle negatively at her. He threatens her, and she becomes frightened. And then she suddenly realizes that he is responsible for her scary situation, not she. In general, when the counter-sexual inner figure in a woman, the animus, is negative towards her, that takes form in having very sharp and negative judgments about oneself. You are a nobody, you will never make it. Men don't like you, they only want to have sex with you, but nobody loves you. You'll never find a husband. You are not really a good woman. Your life will always go on as meaninglessly as it's now, and these kind of self-destructive thoughts which put themselves between her and her femininity and her possibility of relating to an outer man in a positive sense. And therefore, it is a great progress in the dream that she wakes up suddenly and thinks, it's not me, it's that man, and he's responsible. That's as if she could, in that moment, disentangle and realize that those negative thoughts are something outside of her. It's not herself. As if she would say, it's not me thinking that. It's only something in me thinking that, which I need not to believe.
Can the animus be transformed as easily as that? Just by bringing it to consciousness.
I remember once I dreamt that a murderous burglar came into my bedroom, and I woke up with a cry of fear, and I went through what I had thought the evening before. I had had a very peaceful, quiet day before, which didn't amount for such a terrible dream. And then I remembered that before going to bed, I thought, the book I'm writing is all nonsense and I must throw it away. And I thought, I thought that. Then when I had the dream, I thought, no, I don't think that. It thinks that in me, and I needn't believe it. And I could disentangle from the negative thought. I don't accept it. And the miracle happens in our dream that by realizing this, what is that negative stuff in me, which always says you are nobody and you'll never relate properly to a man, blah, 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 blah. That's not me. At that moment, he gets up and walks away. It's as difficult and as simple as all that. The dream shows her, if only you can wake up and see that this isn't you, you can send that devil who gives you those negative thoughts against you